This is going to be for your KUB or your abdomen projection. So this is done in the table bucky. So I'm just going to have my patient come on over here, and you'll note that I have lowered down the table so that the patient can get on there comfortably. And I've also brought the table out over the step pedals. I've already detented the tube with the bucky, and I just moved it out of the way so the patient wouldn't hit themselves. All right, so I'm going to help the patient down, so go ahead and lay back onto your back. Now all I have to do is raise this all the way back up to make it a 40-inch SID. Now I'm going to move the tabletop around to get my patient centered, because I'm already centered with the X-ray tube and the table bucky. So for this, we're going to be at the iliac crest, so not 2 inches above like the erect. We're going to be at the iliac crest and mid-sagittal plane. Okay, now I always come to either the head or the foot of the table to make sure that you are truly mid-sagittal plane. Make sure that the patient's symmetrical and you don't see one hip higher than the other. Arms are down by their side. You can have a sponge up underneath their legs just to help bend up, and that'll help reduce the curve of the back, but you don't have to. I'm going to place my shield at the bottom corner here. Now if we were going to use the left one, it would have to be on the left side, but because the right side is closest to me, I'm going to put it on the right. For males, we would shield the gonadal area, or the testicles, right below the light field. Because for the KUB, we want to see the kidneys, the ureters, and then the bladder. So we have to have 1/4 inch of light showing on the symphysis pubis. So 1/4 inch of the symphysis pubis, which is the two bottom hip bones, connected here to ensure that we have all the bladder. So for males, down at the bottom. Females, you're going to shield the mammary glands. So I'm going to come up here, because the gonads are going to be within the light field on females. Okay? So if we were going to do a hyperscenic patient, let's say that you had a patient that you did not think the 14 by 17 lengthwise was going to work, we can always drop down to a 48-inch SID. So this is your 40-inch. If we were doing 48-inch, I would simply drop this down, and then I can just measure, because remember there's a 3-inch difference from the tabletop to the table bucky. So if I have 45 here, then to the table bucky would be 48. If you have a table and an X-ray tube that follows each other, like as I lower the table down, the SID will change, then you don't have to measure. You can just look at your SID. But you notice how the light field got bigger. Okay, so now I can just ensure that I have all of my abdominal area, because you need to get the sides here as well. If you still think the patient is too large to get it on a 48-inch SID, what you can do at that point is you can do what we call is a high and low projection. So you'd actually do 2 exposures on the patient. You would change your plate to crosswise instead of lengthwise. And then I'm just going to change my collimation to crosswise instead of lengthwise. Now for this, I'm going to place the top of the IR at the xiphoid tip. So right at the bottom of the breastbone and mid-sagittal plane. And then you'll place your marker. And then for this one, you should be able to shield at the gonadal area for males and females. Okay? You go ahead and tell the patient to blow their breath out, so you take this on expiration. Then when you come back, you're going to put your finger right here where you have your marker, because your marker will stay there. And you're just going to ensure that you have overlap from one projection to the other. Now I can see that I'm definitely beyond my symphysis pubis there. And this is where the bottom of the light hit. So I can collimate. The marker is, I'm using it to indicate that I have already made that exposure. Okay? So I just need to make sure I don't go smaller than the marker, because then I'd be missing this right here. Okay, so if you keep the marker in the same place, then when you look at your 1 of 2 and your 2 of 2, you can say, okay, I didn't miss any of the pertinent anatomy. So then here, I would come back up and shield. Okay? Then you'd have to annotate 1 of 2 and 2 of 2 on your actual exposures before you send it across to the radiologist. Okay, so for a KUB, you can do a 40-inch SID, a 48-inch SID, or if you feel like your patient is too wide side to side, you can do a crosswise, and we call it a high and low. Okay?